The devil does not hate you for the worst thing you have ever done. He hates you for something about yourself you could never change. You probably picture his hatred as random and chaotic and loud. You imagine a creature that simply enjoys destruction for its own sake. You think of horror movies and shadows and a villain with no real reason. Then you open the scriptures, and the truth lands much heavier than that. His hatred is not random, and it is not even mostly about your sin. It is ancient and personal, and it was burning long before you were born. He hates what you are far more than he hates what you do. His war with you started in a place you have never seen with your eyes. That is why his attacks feel so personal even when you have done nothing. The moment you understand why, his accusations begin to lose their grip on you. Because the reasons he hates you are the very reasons God refuses to let you go. Most people never connect those two things, and the enemy prefers it that way. What you are about to hear is not meant to scare you at all. It is meant to show you how protected and how valued you really are. 5 reasons stand behind his hatred, and every one of them ends in your favor. So stay with this all the way to the final reason. By the end, you will see his hatred for what it truly is. It is the proof of a war that was already won for you, because you wear the face of his enemy. A baby is born in a quiet hospital room just before sunrise. The nurse wipes the tiny face clean, and the parents finally exhale. Nobody in that room sees anything threatening about the moment at all. But something in the unseen world recoils the instant that child breathes. Because that newborn already carries a resemblance the devil cannot stand to see. Genesis says God made humanity in his own image and his own likeness. Every single person walking this earth is a living portrait of the Creator. You were not mass-produced, and you were not an accident of biology. You were stamped with the likeness of the one the devil hates the most. When the devil looks at you, he sees the face of the one he rebelled against. He cannot reach the throne of God, so he attacks the image of God instead. Every insult he throws at you is really aimed at the one you resemble. He has spent all of history trying to convince you the resemblance is gone. He points at your failures as if they erase the signature of God. Now, here is where this stops being abstract and becomes painfully personal. Every time you believe you are worthless, you are agreeing with his lie. Every time you call yourself a mistake, you insult the one who designed you. You have stood in front of a mirror and said what the enemy wanted said. You have been helping the enemy deface the very thing God called very good. But the cross is where God answered that lie with his own blood. Jesus did not bleed and die for an accident or a worthless thing. He died because that defaced image was worth recovering at any cost. The resurrection proved the image could be raised and restored and made completely new. What sin smudged and shame covered, the risen Christ brought back into full color. When Christ walked out of that tomb, he carried your true face into the light. The devil hates your face because it reminds him of a verdict he can never reverse. Because you inherited the crown he threw away. Picture a man who walked away from a fortune he refused to share. Now imagine him watching a stranger inherit the very thing he destroyed. That bitterness is only a faint shadow of what the devil feels toward you. Now multiply that resentment across thousands of years of watching you rise. That is closer to the weight of what burns inside him when he sees you. He was a being of staggering glory before pride consumed everything inside him. He stood close to the throne and reflected a light that was never his. He wanted the worship that belongs to God alone, so he was cast down. Then God turned around and crowned dust with the honor that angel lost. Psalm 8 says God made humanity a little lower than the heavenly beings. It says God crowned us with glory and honor and handed us real authority. The devil watched mud and breath receive the dignity his pride threw away. Stay with me here, because this next part exposes a trade you make every week. Ask yourself how often you treat that crown like it means almost nothing. How often do you hand your worship to comfort and approval and fear? You were built to reign alongside God, and you keep bowing to lesser things. The enemy loves watching a crowned child of God live like a forgotten orphan. He cannot take the crown off your head, so he tries to make you forget it. But Jesus wore a crown of thorns to win your crown of glory back. He let them press the thorns down so the curse would land on him. He went lower than any angel so he could lift you higher than your shame. The empty tomb is the receipt proving your inheritance was paid for in full. The Spirit now seals that inheritance so the enemy can never legally claim it. The devil hates the crown on your head because he remembers his own falling off. because a human was promised to destroy him. A pastor opens to the 3rd chapter of Genesis on a gray Sunday morning. Most people in the room hear a simple story about a snake and some fruit. They completely miss the sentence that made the devil tremble for thousands of years. God looked straight at the serpent and promised a war he could not win. He said the seed of the woman would one day crush the serpent's head. A human being was promised as the weapon that would end the devil forever. From that exact moment, hell declared war on every child born of a woman. That is why the enemy has hunted families and bloodlines all across history. He was never certain which child would carry the promise that would break him. So he attacked nations and mothers and infants trying to stop one coming king. Do not click away yet, because this ancient war is standing in your own home. The attacks you cannot explain are not proof that God forgot about you. They are proof that you carry a promise the enemy is desperate to silence. You were marked by heaven long before you ever felt marked by the darkness. The strange resistance over your prayers was never random bad luck. It was a frightened enemy responding to the promise living inside of you. He is not afraid of your weakness. He is afraid of who lives in you. But the promised one finally came through a teenage girl in a forgotten town. Heaven wrapped its greatest weapon in the skin of a helpless baby. Jesus took the full strike of the serpent and rose 3 days later anyway. The head was crushed at the very moment the enemy thought he had won. What looked like a funeral on Friday became a coronation by Sunday. Now that same risen king lives inside everyone who calls on his name. The devil hates you because your story is tied to the one who already beat him. Because you can be forgiven and he never will be. A woman sits alone in her car in a dark parking lot after midnight. She whispers a prayer she is certain is far too late and too small. In that single breath, she touches something the devil will never be allowed to hold. Scripture says God did not come to rescue the angels who rebelled and fell. It says he took on human flesh to help the children of Abraham instead. There is no cross offered to the devil and no open tomb waiting for him. He watched the door of mercy slam shut on his own kind forever. Then he watched that same door swing wide open for broken people like you. Picture his fury as he realizes the offer he lost is the offer you ignore. He would trade every scheme he has ever built for 1 second of that mercy. This is the part you need to feel before you move on too quickly. The shame screaming that you are too far gone is not coming from God. It is the voice of a creature mocking the very grace he can never receive. He wants you to refuse a forgiveness he would give anything to be offered. Every time you call yourself unforgivable, you are repeating his own hopeless sentence. You are speaking the eternity of the accuser over a story God wants to rewrite. But the resurrection is God shouting that the offer is still standing for you. No sin you have committed is bigger than the empty grave outside Jerusalem. The same power that raised Jesus is the power that erases your whole record. You can walk out of that parking lot carrying a mercy that hell can only envy. The devil hates you because you can be forgiven, and that is a door he can never enter, because he already lost and he knows it. A man scrolls through his phone at 2 a.m. while drowning in regret. Every notification feels like a reminder of everything he has somehow ruined. The enemy whispers that nothing has changed and nothing about him ever will. But that whisper is the oldest bluff in the entire universe. The devil is not fighting from a position of strength over your life. He is fighting as a defeated enemy who is terrified you will find out the truth. Colossians says Jesus disarmed the powers and put them to open public shame. He triumphed over them openly through the cross that should have ended him. 3 days later, the stone rolled back and the grave came up empty. Death itself was beaten on the field where the enemy was sure he had won. So measure your fear against the truth instead of against the lie. How often do you live like the accuser still holds the final word over you? How often do you forget that the verdict over your life is already finished? You hand him authority he lost 2,000 years ago at a borrowed tomb. You let a beaten enemy narrate a life that already belongs to the victor. You are not waiting on a victory. You are standing inside one already paid for. The resurrection is the proof that his loudest threat is a sound with no power. The roar you fear in the dark is the roar of a chained and beaten enemy. The spirit that raised Christ from death now lives inside of you for good. That same spirit is far greater than the one whispering accusations in the dark. The devil hates you because your very existence reminds him that he already lost. So why does the devil hate humans so much? It was never random, and it was never really about your behavior at all. He hates the image, and God called that image worth dying for. He hates the crown, and God set it right back on your head. He hates the promise, and God kept that promise all the way to a cross. He hates the open door, and God walked through it to come and find you. He hates the empty tomb, and God left it empty on purpose for you. He hates the love story, and God refused to let it end without you in it. Every reason the enemy has to hate you is a reason God has to keep you. His rage is not a threat hanging over your future like a coming storm. It is the tantrum of a defeated being watching grace rescue what he wanted destroyed. So stop agreeing with the voice of the one who already lost the war. You have rehearsed his accusations long enough to know them by heart. Today you get to trade his sentence for the verdict of the cross. The cross paid the full price, and the empty tomb proved the payment cleared. You are not loved a little. You are loved enough to start a war over. Let that truth settle deeper than every accusation you have believed about yourself. The enemy studied you closely and still could not find a way to win. If this reminded you who you actually are, hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps push this message to someone who needs to hear it today. Then comment which one of these 5 reasons hit you the hardest tonight. Be honest in that comment, because someone scrolling needs to know they are not alone. Your one sentence could be the thing that holds another person together today. And subscribe so the next truth finds you before the enemy gets there first. There is another video already waiting that goes deeper into this same war. Go watch it next while your heart is still soft and still listening. You are not the one he hates because you are somehow weak and small. You are the one he hates because heaven already crowned you, and he knows it.